Live from New York, it's a show that ironically has their son right there at work with him. First things first.
He's waving.
He's waving at a camera.
We start with the 55th pick, Bronny James, selected by the Lakers. Happy moment in LA. Here's Bronny being drafted. Some skepticism in the media. A friend of the show, Vincent Goodwell, had a great article in kind of an incendiary tweet. That's probably too much. I thought the tweet was good. Lakers are a family-run organization, the Buss family, the Randus family, and now the James family. If there's one organization that couldn't thumb its nose at a star wanting this particular wish, it's the Lakers. It can still be cringy, too. Nick, is skepticism around the pick warranted?
I think the coverage of this has been absolutely maddening. Wow. And so disingenuous by so many people.
I buy that.
So, a couple things that no one has ever pretended to care about in the NBA are now hot button issues. The nepotism piece of it. I'm old enough to remember Kostas Anthanasis being picks in the 50s or the 60th pick, and not a single person was like, there's a 4-year senior out there who's having his moment stolen because a team wants to kiss up to Giannis Antetokounmpo. Nobody cared. The value of second-round picks. Day before yesterday, Dylan Jones, the 26th pick of the draft, was traded straight up for 5 second-round picks. Last night, the 52nd pick of the draft was traded for cash. About $2 million. Wire it to me. We'll take some in Bitcoin. That's it. No one cares. And now all of a sudden people's obvious, transparent dislike or jealousy or whatever of LeBron has colored this whole thing. Because I guarantee you, if in 15 years, Cannon Curry, Steph's youngest, is a fringe NBA prospect, and the Warriors are like, you know what? It's a good story. I think he's a good kid, and he's got a shot. We have him 71st on our board. We'll draft him 58th. The think pieces aren't coming. Instead, people are like, that's awesome. Yeah. That is super dope. And this should have been celebrated like that, because this picture right here is one of the coolest stories ever. These two human beings now play for the same basketball team. That's LeBron James making the NBA Finals with his toddler son, and now they're on a team together. And lastly, Brew, obviously, nepotism played a piece in this. But the idea that Bronny deserves nowhere to be in the room denies these realities. We saw him in the McDonald's All-American game. Play very well against his peers, score 15 points, shoot well. We then saw him at the Combine perform in the top 10 percentile in 2 separate, very different either athleticism or shooting drills. What we also saw was 10 months ago, this kid's heart stopped on the court, and he didn't have a great year of college basketball. And instead of the story being one of, if not the greatest player ever, has played long enough that his kid is now going to be his teammate. And by the way, that kid, impeccable off-court resume and overcame what could have been a life-ending moment. The story is just a weird, LeBron's too much power, disingenuous. What about I didn't like any of it. So that's how I feel the story should have gone and would have gone for any player in the league other than LeBron James's kid.
The story is fantastic and should absolutely be celebrated. And the reason this has never happened in the NBA before is because LeBron is about to start his 22nd year. And he entered the league early, we know, right out of high school. So no one's been able to play this long for the most part, and then to play with their son. And hey, we'll get to it later. He might play with his other son too. We'll see. All right, Bryce. But this is a phenomenal story. And I agree with Nick. I do not, and I mentioned this yesterday, want to hear anything about nepotism at all until you start addressing the nepotism throughout not only the NBA, but sports. In fact, it's more than sports. All right, it's in politics. It's throughout American society. So now You want to address it? When an African American got the juice to have some nepotism benefit his family, I'm supposed to get angry? Please, not at all. In fact, the Lakers, who was the president of basketball operations for the Lakers about a decade ago? Jim Buss.
Yeah.
Was he qualified?
I don't know. Who's the owner now?
Pushed out.
Jeannie Buss, right. Because he wasn't. I mean,
Yeah.
and I dealt with Jim. I liked him. But he didn't do a great job.
Yeah.
But he was the owner's son.
Yeah.
Okay, and I mentioned coaches yesterday. We can go to front offices. It is throughout the league and it's throughout other sports as well. So don't even bring that to me now. Okay? Now, as far as the skepticism, I was skeptical a year or two ago when LeBron first started talking about wanting to play with Bronny. Because I was like, is that best for Bronny? Okay, I was like, number one, he may feel like, look, man, I don't want to get there on my dad's coattails.
Mm-hmm.
I want to get there on my own merits. And as Nick said, he does have merits. Now, not great merits at this point, but he's certainly an NBA, on the fringe of being an NBA player. Okay, and you got to give him grace because of the cardiac arrest he suffered not that long ago. So I was wondering that. But like I said, all these guys in the NBA front offices, we had a couple guys pass. Bill Walton passed recently. His son Luke, was a coach in the NBA. Jerry West, the legend, passed. His two sons, Johnny works in the front office for Golden State. Ryan works in the front office, was with the Lakers, then with the Pistons. And if they don't feel like, man, did I really deserve to get? Bronny shouldn't feel that way either. You just got to capitalize on it and
get your
take
foot in the door.
Right, and then take advantage of it. All right. The second thing was Bronny, my concern was, okay, he probably is going to want to feel like, let me get out of my dad's shadow and spread my wings. That's going to be a challenge to do. What changed my thoughts on it is watching Bronny like at the combine and talk about it. He seems comfortable in his own skin. He's had to deal with being LeBron James Jr. his entire life. And so he's used to it. And I think he sincerely looks happy just to be in the league, whether it's playing with his dad or not. I do think it's more important to LeBron. But I think he's just got to make the most of this opportunity.
Sure.
So I am not as skeptical about that aspect of it as I once was. I think it's good for Bronny, and he's just got to make the most of it. You got your foot in the door. Now here's your chance. Do your thing.
See, I buy that. I don't buy being 100% non-skeptical like Ken Griffey Jr. and Ken Griffey Sr., and it felt like any pushback was a little bit of, I don't know. I don't think people were buying that was the story. Like, oh my God, can you believe it? The two Griffeys there playing together. So I think there is a little bit of skepticism that's fair, not totally dissimilar to like Bill Belichick having his sons on the staff. Right. Were those guys going to be hired on other NFL staffs? Probably not. Were they related to the GOAT coach? Yes. Do they have a strong relationship with the most important person in the organization? Yes. Could they help get a little push ahead and turn out to be pretty good? Yes. But was that met with some skepticism? Yeah. Even though there seem to be good guys. But I think having some skepticism is fair, and you don't need to be maligned to like, how dare you be skeptical?
No, I don't know.
It.
So, but here's the thing. I don't think this is where I think the skeptics. I think there's a bit of straw manning going on. I haven't heard a single person being like, "What a coincidence! Why, that is crazy that happened. That the Lakers happened to draft Bronny James." I haven't heard no one has argued. There has not been a single person out there saying that this is totally unrelated. This is just the player they wanted.
Yeah.
And if no one is
why would somebody say that?
But I feel like the Lakers released their video, and it's like Rob talking
I
to
think
Bronny,
they're excited about it.
I know, but there was an element of
performance,
a little bit.
Okay,
because he understands, I would imagine, the situation of Bronny. Everybody's saying this is only for LeBron. We want to celebrate Bronny and at least we're going to let him know we actually want you. We actually care about you as a player, and I think that's what that was all about.
And go ahead.
I want to answer your thing about, because you said hypothetically, if Steph's kids, if he could play with his kids or whatever. I do think that some of the skepticism about LeBron, some of the reaction is from the feeling, which has been, justified, that over the years he has orchestrated so much, whether it's going to certain teams, getting players traded to his team, whatever, coaches, all that. And I do think people are looking at this as, here's LeBron again, flexing his muscles and making something back. But I'm not mad at him for flexing his muscles. If you got it, go ahead.
But that's also where I also think, if we may just for another moment, think that so much of the LeBron discussion is just inverted from a place of something about him irks me and what he's doing is wrong, rather than objectively looking at it. People, you are correct, Brew, get more upset about LeBron hitting free agency, surveying the landscape, and saying, what place is the best position? Who can I get to join me? Rather than the 15 guys who, since the decision, have signed a new contract with a team saying, I want to be here, and then within 18 months been like, actually, you must trade me. Oh, I won't show up for camp. I'll be out of shape. None of that.
Never ruined a season.
Never thrown. And so this is the reason where I'm saying the skepticism part, I think, is some people are operating disingenuously, is because no one is arguing that this is a happy coincidence. But other folks are arguing that this is a sports crime. That using the 55th pick, which is worth about $1.8 million cash, or about evidently 20% of what Dylan Jones at pick 26 is worth, that we've never seen something like it. I saw the New York Knicks give a roster spot to Chris Smith because they wanted J.R. Smith to be happy. Yeah. The Lakers drafting the 27th ranked high school player in his class because it is one of the things that will make arguably the greatest player ever happy, and maybe a little more upside there than taking a 19-year-old from Latvia. We'll see. It's a low-risk thing. The amount of skepticism, I think, was overplayed because everything LeBron touches is so polarizing.
All right, let's talk about this year on the court. Here's Dave McMenamin on his conversation with Anthony Davis. I brought up Bronny James, and he said I wouldn't be mad at the team if we took him and he was still available at 55. See,
that's being nice. That's AD being nice to his play nephew.
What do you think of that?
I didn't say it.
I know, but you clearly are thinking something.
I don't know. Davis told me he was really impressed with the way he was able to break down the defense, get into the teeth of it, and be able to set up teammates for success. I think AD was just, you're right, being nice.
Okay.
But it's the idea that other teams ahead of him were thinking about taking him in the 40s. I don't know if that's
didn't we discuss that someone might take him as like a trade chip?
Yeah, but that seems disingenuous. So maybe.
But go ahead.
All right. So Bronny's contributions this year look like what, bro?
I'd be shocked if he makes any significant contributions to the Lakers. What I see with Bronny is playing a lot of G League basketball. They're not going to sign they don't have to sign a G League contract. They're going to get a legitimate NBA contract, but he still can play in the G League, and he needs to. Yeah. He needs to play. All right, it can't just be working out with coaches, shooting drills, things like that. So I think he'll be in the G League a lot. I think when he plays with the Lakers, first action and maybe all of his action this year will be in blowouts. And the first time he's on the court with LeBron will be some type of Lakers blowout win where they put Bronny out there. It's a great moment.
How about blowout loss?
Well, my guess is LeBron, but LeBron might be on the bench. They might rest him.
But honestly, a blowout loss is probably a blowout loss is on the board.
Well, I just wonder if it's a blowout loss, you might get your starters out and not one, and it won't be a feel good of a moment if they're down 35 to Denver.
But that's why it's
weird.
Just that's why it's weird.
Why?
Because if the Lakers are down 25 with 8 minutes to go.
LeBron's already out of the game in real life.
So then you're putting Bronny in?
Yeah.
Sure, maybe.
Okay, but
I'm talking about Bronny together.
No, he was saying that not Bronny's first NBA
I thought
action.
you were saying Bronny's
He was saying his first action with LeBron on the court. That doesn't happen. My guess is his first action in the league will not be with LeBron on the court. I think he would probably play in one of those situations. Okay, but go ahead. Sorry.
No, I don't see him making a significant contribution this year. Again, I'd be stunned if he does.
So I'm going to throw some numbers up at you.
Oh.
And you tell me if you think he could do this. Because Lakers rookies, now it wasn't a second-round pick, it was first-round pick. But last year at number 17, they took a guy who, with no controversy, you know what I mean? There was no nepotism involved. Here's what he did with the Lakers last year. Do we think Bronny can match those numbers? I think maybe. That's what they got from the 17th pick of the draft. 21 games, 5 minutes a game, 1 point, half a rebound, half an assist, 22% from the field, 13% from three, which is to remind everyone that the NBA draft is very different than the NFL draft, which is top 5 picks, typically 3 of them are awesome, and then from 6 through 30, you are not quite picking names out of the hat, but it's very hard to get a contributor. I think his real contribution, because I agree with you, should spend most of his time in G League, needs to play, needs to work. He shot well at the combine, needs to have probably a quicker release. There's a lot of things, and the thing working against him more than anything is his height. So figuring out how to navigate an NBA, game at a shade under 6'2" is going to take real time and work. And I think the best case scenario is he is a rotation player in 3 years. I think that's the best case scenario. After his 3rd year, you know what I mean? I think that's the case for almost all these second runners. But Wildes, where I think he could contribute is what his impact of being around has on LeBron. LeBron is in year 22. This team is not right now anywhere, in my opinion, close to a legitimate. Of LeBron's 22 seasons, this team probably ranks 18th in championship odds of all the teams he's ever been on. He has the scoring record. He's accomplished everything. Does having his son around change some of LeBron's kind of most annoying or non-productive tendencies? Will LeBron be more locked in to the new coach, J.J. Redick's huddle? Because I'm setting an example for my kid who's right there.
That's interesting.
Will LeBron be less likely?
Locked in on defense?
Not just locked in on defense, but more likely to, when someone else screws up on defense, or if LeBron screws up on defense, either way, it's usually the same kind of that reaction. Less likely to do that because my kid is here.
No, he's been pretty successful behaving the way that
he has been successful. LeBron knows Bronny doesn't have the margin of error he did. LeBron, and so I don't know, man. I do work with my son in a position that he would not have gotten initially without me saying I want to work with my son. There are certain things I do on that podcast that are different than if he weren't there because I know, you know what I mean? Like he's there, and these are not a perfect comparison. I understand, but it's just so I'm fascinated by that. I also am fascinated by if he were to be, they had the injuries they had last year, and all of a sudden he is a part of the rotation for a few days. The defensive piece of it, I think, in those scenarios is a fascinating case study of what LeBron can channel. Like, are we going to see, if Bronny's out there for an undermanned Lakers team, LeBron being the greatest help defender we've seen from him in a decade? Because he's trying. Like, I'm not being a smart aleck here. I think those are all real things because we've never seen something like this.
Finally, Bob Myers talked about the behind-the-scenes machinations from Rich Paul to prevent other teams from drafting Bronny, saying, Rich Paul's calling teams and saying, don't take Bronny James. If you take him, he's going to Australia. So he has a plan and he has a place. For your reaction.
Yeah, I checked around a little bit. From what I'm told, there were 4 teams outside of the Lakers that had legitimate interest in taking Bronny. The Clippers, the Timberwolves, which not that bad of a situation for him. You know, I know they drafted a young point guard too before him, but the Suns, but they wanted it because of LeBron, and the Raptors. All right, Toronto. Rich did talk to or text, call, however it was done, but let these teams know this. And again, I don't have a problem at all with this. This is what agents do. Ron Holland, who went 5th to the Pistons, didn't even work out with them. Alex Sarr, who went 2nd to Washington, a lot of people thought he would go 1st. For the longest, he was the #1 guy in the mock drafts. He refused to work out for Atlanta. Now, I don't think Alex Sarr called Atlanta and said, hey, his agent did, Bill Duffy. All right, so this is what agents do. All right, so to act like Rich Paul was doing something crazy, something ridiculous, no, this is what a lot of agents do. He was trying to get his client in the best situation he could, and so he flexed his muscle. And it's like I said yesterday, Nick, some of these agents, when you have a significant amount of players, and Rich has about 40, then you have power. And these teams have to deal with you because they may want some of your other guys. So I thought, Rich, that's no problem whatsoever with what he did.
You jotted something down.
I kind of like Minnesota.
So
No, it would have been interesting.
So I do too. So let me, if I may, cap what I've said here with this additional caveat. I happen to believe that LeBron, the father, has earned the benefit of the doubt throughout being a public father since he was 19 years old, in that he seems to not only be like an involved, invested dad, but really want what's best for his kids. I also think Rich Paul, the agent, has earned the benefit of the doubt that they are constantly, even though through bad media coverage or angered front office, doing what they think is best for their clients.
That's right.
If there were a better basketball situation, and it's like, no, we're not doing it because this isn't what the dad wants, that to me would be objectionable, to be clear. And so I think LeBron has earned the benefit of the doubt to say he wouldn't do that to his kid, and Rich has earned the benefit of the doubt to say he wouldn't do that to one of his clients.
I agree with that.
But so I think when people see this, that comes to mind, and I think that's a legitimate discussion to have. I just don't think there's any reason to believe that is actually what happened. But yeah, I agree with you. Like, because there is, Anthony Edwards is not 6'1", but undersized a bit for how he plays. Like, there's defense. Like, some of that does seem like that could be fun and interesting.
And they drafted a point guard, and then they still have Mike Conley. So, it's not like he would have stepped in and been in the rotation. And also the thing most people aren't considering, because we haven't really, Bronny kind of has talked around it. Maybe Bronny is also like, I do want to play with that. If I got the chance, if I have a choice, I do want to play with my dad.
Of course.
I know I can learn from him and it'll make me a better player. So maybe there's that too. And he was like, if you guys can get me to the Lakers, let's do it.
Okay.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get more from the show and to check out clips from other shows on FS1.